What is your relationship with time? Are you wired and tired, stressed and overwhelmed, busy and going nowhere? Or just want to scale your business? Welcome to Take Back Time with your host, Penny Zenker. Penny focuses on books, strategies, tools, and tips to help you work smarter and approach your time more strategically. As a result, you can have more energy, focus, and get more done in less time. Be more efficient and effective. Get ready to take back time.
Hello, and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker, and I'm your host. And on this show, what I love about the show is interviewing really interesting people, some people famous, some people less famous, but everybody has the same challenge. And that is a challenge of how to be more productive, how to do more with less, so to speak, or really just get more balance in our life, accelerate what we're achieving in a more efficient and effective way. Whatever it is, time management is the issue that keeps coming back over time. And this goes back way into Roman times. This isn't a new concept. It's not just because of the internet or anything like that. It is an age-old topic that we're constantly trying to get on top of. So today, I'm super excited to have Paul Gallagher with us. And Paul, he has this Amazing Me project, which he has written. And he's worked in commercial operations and really for the majority of his career, starting in live music venues and especially transitioning to higher education and charity sectors, managing events and hospitality events around the world at some of the most prestigious universities. So the Amazing Me project has allowed Paul to bring his experience in organizational project management and fuse it with his passion for personal development and learning. The Amazing Me project is an ongoing project in itself, and Paul is committed to creating additional resources and support networks so that people can use the tools and the frameworks that are set out in the book and really use it for themselves and become Amazing Me project managers themselves. So Paul, without further, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's great having you here. I loved when we were connecting that it's about, life as a project. Everything that we do can be seen as a project. So I like the idea that you're bringing project management concepts into helping us to better manage our life.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of how it came about, really. I was doing some project management courses. Even though I'd done project management in my career, I was doing some extra courses. But I was also doing quite a lot of personal development as well, as I normally do. And it just kind of correlated. And it was the project management aspect, the actual really defined end product that you have in a project management system. And then just the end product that you have in your own personal life when you're setting goals, when you have a real clear destination you're trying to get to. And then you allocate your resources backwards to, get to that goal in the best way possible. And it was these two things I was doing at the same time. And then all of a sudden I just thought, they're the same. It's the same concept.
Totally. It just clicks. I mean, why is it so difficult that we run our lives differently than we run our businesses? Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, to be honest, this is one of the problems that I've had and probably still do have a little bit, is that I can be one person at work and I can be someone else at home. I mean, I talk about this in the book and just, I have Paul, I have two characters. I have work Paul and I have home Paul. I think I say in the book that work Paul can be ruthless, it can be determined, it can be mean, or just to get the job done. Whereas home Paul isn't that character; he's somebody else. And it was like, how do I bring those kind of aspects that I have at my work that allowed me to do well in different roles? How can I use that in my own personal life to still get results?
It's a really important point. I hadn't really thought of it like that. I mean, we're all many people, right? With different people that we hang out with. Even we have friends who we laugh with, and then we're, maybe you're the funny Paul, and then, you're with other people and you're the intense Paul, and that's a really interesting thing that maybe we are accessing different parts of ourselves in terms of resources as well. And if we're not really conscious and purposeful of it, we are lacking in some of the resources that make us successful in other areas of our life. So that's really key.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, I think I do mention that in the book as well, which is saying that I don't see a problem with having different personalities, different versions of yourself, as long as that version, you're using that version to actually get the result you want. There's no point in being somebody else and not achieving anything. There's kind of no point to doing that.
Right. So where did this, so you said the project came from your work with project management. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about the background about how this book and this project came together?
Well, like I say, it was from doing these courses, and it was from having done countless different personal development, read hundreds of books on the subject, YouTube videos, Udemy courses, all kinds of things. So I'm always wanting to better myself.
Right.
And, I had a bad year last year, to be honest, not too great. Doing these things just kind of helped me get a bit more normal in my life. And then, like I say, it just clicked that these things could be put towards making myself better as well, having a really defined end goal for myself, and then working that project to get there. And it was just crazy. I mean, I didn't set out to actually write. I know that sounds a bit odd, but it wasn't meant to be the book it ended up being, if that makes sense. I had the idea for the framework, and I was just going to do a 20-page PDF or something and just give it away. But as I was writing it, it just, more of myself was coming out of it as I was writing. And then it just took on a life of its own, really.
That's great. So let's talk about, some of the concepts and frameworks that you have in there. You talked about setting goals, right? And having goals in each area of your life. And if we don't have clear goals, then of course we're setting ourselves up for failure in a way, right? Because we're not setting ourselves up with clear goals. And most people don't, even though they know what clear goals are, they still don't set clear goals.
No, absolutely. And, I'm guilty of that myself in the past. Maybe still guilty of it myself, but I kind of catch myself when I'm doing it wrong, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I'm the same. We're all human, right?
Again, it's part of the project. It's part of the Amazing Me project to kind of recognize when you're maybe straying off path a little bit, but, how to get back onto that path and how to use, friends and other people to kind of recognize when you are coming off your track and get you back on there. Yeah, it's like I say, it wasn't meant to be this book, and it was from doing some personal development courses about goal setting and about kind of time management, and just that concept of you really need a very defined goal. And I knew this. I've known this in my past. I've known this in my work and in courses I've done, and things I've done in my career. But for some reason, it just seemed to hit me this one time that you have to know what you're doing. You have to know where you're going, and you have to know why you're going there. I mean, I think I use the word why a million times in the book, making sure that people understand that if you don't know why you're doing something, then you're kind of destined to fail already. I don't like to use the word fail, but sometimes it's,
you're not connected to it, right? You can set a goal, but if you don't really know why, because some people's goals aren't even their own, right? They're goals that they think they should have.
No, absolutely.
And so it's so important to get connected to that. And that creates passion and purpose. So, it is really, really important. And I think it's people know it, but it's underutilized.
I think people need to do it first. You know what I mean? It's like I knew this concept. I'd read Start With Why by Simon Sinek, and I've done all Tony Robbins courses, and they all say the same thing. And like I say, it just hit me this one time. And another moment of clarity came to me with Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And
great,
I read that book. Everybody talked about that book and said, "Oh, this is the book that kind of made me." And so I was like, "Yeah, I'll read it." But I read it last year during my kind of dark time. And like I say, I'd read it before, but for some reason things came out of that book this time I hadn't done before. And it's the same thing. It's about really knowing where you're going, what you want, writing it down, all the same things that everybody teaches. Yet, I mean, even the book says itself that Napoleon Hill says that, you will know when you're ready for this. And that's what it was for me.
Right, and you were ready.
The time I'd read the book, and all of a sudden I was ready, and then it made sense. And I was reading things that it's like reading a new book.
So what's one thing that you do to really connect with that why that really works for you?
Yeah, like I say, it's a lot about writing them down, making sure that you've got access to them. I make it part of my daily project, one of my objectives every day, just to read them, to read through all my whys. I have my why, which is I call it from the overarching goal. That's how I describe it in the book. And that's kind of that's my life. That is what I want. And that's just for me. It's not for anyone else. It's not written down in the book. I don't expect other people to tell people their goals if they don't want to, if that makes sense. And then that has a why on its own. And it's just making sure that I read that why all the time and just really understand why it is. I've got it in my amazingly project planner, and it's, I've got it highlighted in yellow so I can really see it. And I just make sure that I read that every day, every couple of days, and just really connect to it and just make sure I know. Because it's very, it's so easy just to go off track. I mean, I do it every day. If I'm being honest, I wrote this, I've got to kind of, I've got to walk the walk and I'm going to talk the talk, if that makes sense. So I don't mind admitting that I sometimes find myself doing things that aren't necessarily on my project plan for that day.
Right.
Capturing that is really going, hang on, why am I doing that? If that was the best allocation of my resource that is time, I would have put it on my planner for the day. Does that make sense?
Well, and because you're reviewing it every day and you're keeping it top of mind and you're staying connected to it, it helps you to be evaluating everything that you do and saying, is this in line with that? Right? I talk about aligning your tasks and your goals. And that's the same thing, right? Is that if you're not clear on what your goals are and you're not reviewing them on a regular basis, then you stray more often. It's just life.
No, absolutely. That's it. And you've got to be reviewing the objectives. You've got to be just because I've said, oh, I'm going to do this objective today, and it might be, it might take 3 days to complete this thing. If at some point I realize that isn't going to be the best outcome for me, then I recognize that and I think, well, I'm going to stop it now, because if I spend 2 more days doing it, I already know I'm not going to get to the goal. So why put any more of my resource into it? It's just been, like you say, just really aligning that resource with the outcome. And if you don't keep reading what it is, then you just go onto autopilot again so easily. And that's what I've tried to do, and that's what I've done in the past, which is why I kind of had to make this framework anyway. So I'm still learning. Like, the book is not about me saying, oh, well, look at all the amazing things I've done. I mean, there are elements of that, but there's also, it's very honest. It's saying, these are the areas I struggle with. These are these why I had to be like this. And, I'm not there yet. If I was there, then I probably wouldn't be writing the book, if that makes sense. It's more of a, I say in the book, there's nothing in this book that's going to tell you how to make £1 million, if that makes sense. It's the way there is, if you could do, but I also say if your goal isn't to make £1 million, then you're not going to do it. You know what I mean? It's like you set the goal for what you want it to be and adopt the framework for that.
Absolutely.
Distractions are the enemy of productivity. Go to distractionquiz.com and find out your distraction profile. Are you a time zombie or a hamster? Take this free distraction quiz today to rate your ability to focus on what keeps you from being a wizard. Go to distractionquiz.com.
You talked about, we all are on this me project, right? We all have it. We all have a me, and we all are looking to be the best part of ourselves and achieve different things in our lives. What do you think is the biggest thing that you can advise people around, the next step? So after I get clear on what it is that I want to do, I've got those goals really clear, what can help people to stay consistent in their habits and behaviors? Because that's one of the biggest challenges, right? Is consistency.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, in a way that is, again, like I was saying, it's about making that decision that you are going to do. You are going to check your plan every day. You are going to write your next day that evening, if that makes sense. And if you can't commit to it, you can't make that decision, then again, you're not going to do it anyway. And I suppose, if I was going to give people any advice, it's got to be really honest with yourself. You've got to be really honest about where your strengths don't lie, if that makes sense. Because, if you say, oh, my goal is going to be X, but you're not, you already know that there's going to be something along that way that you are not the best at doing, then, you've got to be honest and just say, right, I need to get some help there. I need to get someone else to do that. I need to outsource it. In the book I talk, I describe things in more like personal development way, and then I describe it in a more manager way. And that's what you will do as a manager. I always say to my staff or, other managers that work for me, it's like, I'm not as good as that as you. And that's why I hired you, because I get to hear and I haven't got that skill. So I bring in someone else who does. That might be a personal trainer. It might be just a coach. It might even be just some therapy that you get. But it's about recognizing where your, not weaknesses, because again, I don't like to use the word weakness.
Right. Where you've got room for improvement or support.
No bravado in this. It's, you're not going to get there if you're not even honest with yourself. And I think that'd be the biggest piece of advice that I'd give to people. It's just, be honest. And it's one of the things that I've given people as a a tool at the end of the book is to kind of map out your life, like really kind of put it onto paper, completely personal. It's not online, no one sees it, but a lot of questions, and really find out which parts of your life are lacking the most, if you see what I mean, or where you.
Mm-hmm. And so, do you believe in the there's the life wheel where you take a look at all the different domains of your life and you set goals and objectives in each of those areas and check in with them on a regular basis? Is that part of your process?
Yeah. I mean, I could explain to everybody like how it works. It is kind of similar to that, because I do like the life wheel, and I like if you compare it to a wheel on a car, it's like if it's not round, then it's not going to go. You're not going to go very far. You have to get it. But in the book, I call it my stable table, and I kind of refer to it as my overarching goal is the tabletop, and then each area of my life. And in my project, I have 4. People can choose how many different areas they want, but my table has 4 legs. And then what I do is every day make sure that what I'm doing is contributing to each one of those legs to make sure it keeps its integrity, make sure it's the same length, make sure it can hold, the same goal. And that's what it's all about. It's about, again, recognizing where maybe my table leg for one, is my health one. I call it my health, mind, and fitness table leg. Maybe that one's okay for at the moment. I'm not, I'm kind of doing all right. I'm training. I feel okay in my mind. So, but I'm going to put a little bit more onto my career or my finance and wealth table leg. So, it's just recognizing where it is, and not, don't put all your time into one that maybe doesn't need as much time when you maybe need to put a bit more focus on your relationships. And that's what the project kind of allows you to do. It really, as long as, if you keep that stable table analogy in mind, when you're planning your days, you can really see where you might want to put a little bit more focus. And I also prioritize it as well. And again, I say in the book that I have a family and friends area, and I kind of try and make sure that I do those ones first, if you see what I mean? Because for me, that's where the other ones don't make any sense if I don't have that. That's kind of key. So I need to make sure that one is has a priority, if that makes sense, because I'm doing this, I'm doing it all for my family.
Yeah. And I want to highlight that, because I think, when we look at health and we look at family, it doesn't make sense, but those seem to be the ones that get put to the wayside, even though we know they're the most important things for us, right? We know that they're truly our values is our family and taking care of our health. But at the same time, so many people sacrifice those 2 areas of their life because they're so obsessed in what they're doing at work or stressed or whatever it is. And, and I'm no exception. Like, I have these times where I'm just so obsessed with what I'm doing and just want to finish it. And I think that that's the key, is to take those areas that support your values and the things that are most important to you, really, is to do them first. Because when you do that and you have that planned in your calendar and they're absolutely fixed, right? They're not things that are going to get thrown off the calendar or not done. If those are your rules, then you're more likely to find that stability because you've already secured the things that are most important to you.
That's absolutely right. And like I say, what forms my why as well. So in my wealth and finance table leg, my why is because I want to create, an abundance of wealth for my children. And so I can do things that I will talk about in my family and friends where I'm wanting to share experience. I can't do that if this table leg's, crooked, or, I have to get that balance. And, that's just the way I manage it. It's, people can do it however they want. It's not, it's not prescriptive. No one's going to tell people they're doing it wrong. It's what works for you. And that's why you've got to be honest with yourself about what it is you want, but you've got to be honest with yourself about your progress as well. Else, you're destined to not get there.
So that's an important part. Let's talk about that, and then we'll wrap up. Progress, right, is using and understanding and being honest with yourself in regular monitoring and controlling, right? And tracking. Like, isn't that the thing where people say, oh, I don't have the time, right? I don't have the time to reflect back and to take a look at what works and what doesn't work. And that's the biggest mistake I think that people make, is that they just move on to the next thing, or they're just constantly doing without reflecting that they don't get to take advantage of the momentum factor, and B, they don't really see what doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's one of the things that's from the project management side of stuff, really having that lessons learned log, really putting stuff back there that's, even if it's just that, a friend was really good at, motivating me to go to the gym. for that week. It's like, write it down, because, maybe later on when you've got a bigger goal, you might want to, tap into that and get that person to play more of a role in that.
Yeah.
And instead of doing these goals, when they go right, when they go wrong, that's what you do in project management. That's how you learn. That's how your next project's a bigger success.
So what would happen on a project, right? If you were doing a project and you didn't check in with the different people on the team and you just checked in at the end when it was due?
Well, I mean,
what
that's
happened to that project?
The framework's set up for that to not happen.
Right.
Which is kind of where the Amazing Me project does differ, because in a way we're playing all the roles of the project team, which is why it's so more important to be honest with yourself. But I do a big thing in the book about, I call them the accountability buddies. And that's the thing that I'm really trying to build at the moment, like a network of people who can support people, because you can't do it on your own. And I think some people might struggle to, maybe they don't feel confident telling people what their goals are. Maybe they don't have anyone that they can really rely on. And that's what I'm building on, like social media and on email lists, just trying to get people to put their stories forward, put their lessons learned forward, and just put them out there for people to read and just say, okay, I can see why
Absolutely.
that. And,
Absolutely.
So that
project would fail, right? The truth is that project that didn't check in at all, it would be over budget. People would have gone in all different directions and not stayed true. Their pieces might not fit together, right? There's so many different things that could go wrong. And that's why you have to take that reflection time regularly, like you said, daily, to review your goals and see how things are going and plan your weeks and things like that. So that's totally critical. So tell us what's next for the project.
So I'm kind of just working through my own project. I'm building up that network of people slowly. And I do have time framed on this, because I try and make sure that all the goals are smart, so I can measure them, and all that kind of framework around that. But like I said, that's key. That's what I'm focusing on at the moment. And the book, people can get the book, they can buy the book on Amazon and stuff, but they can just go to the website and download it. This isn't me trying to make money off this book. It is more about getting these ideas out there and creating that community for them. That's what I'm working on at the moment. I have a long-term plan for this, but at the moment it is more just about getting that community built and just being there, doing things like this, and having a presence online to just kind of help people and advise. And that's good for me. That's good for my my personal life, and it's good for my mental health as well, to actually be doing something worthwhile.
Absolutely. So what's the website that they can go to? And we'll also have that available for people in the text.
Yeah, it's just www.theamazingmeproject.com. It's on Facebook as well. There's a Facebook page, and it's the accountabilities group, and that's just facebook.com/amazingmeproject. They're on all social medias, but they're the main platforms. I do a blog as well. I try and post articles once a week, so people can get a lot more resource there. And I think the Facebook page is a good place for people to start, because they can go from there.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here and for sharing your journey, because it's also it's hard to be vulnerable and to share with people, hey, this is where I've fallen down and this is what helped me get up. But I appreciate you doing that and really revealing so much of yourself in your book that people can really relate, and then they can see how it could work for them too. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you.
And to all of you listening, thank you so much for being here. And I hope you've made the connection that if you ran your life in each area of your life like a project, then you could have a structure and a framework that would really support you in being more successful and getting to where you want to go faster and being happier in the process. So go on and check out theamazingmeproject.com, or is it .uk?
.com.
Go and check that out, and download the book and get yourself a hard copy, and really check out the frameworks and the approaches that Paul is giving you here, because it's worth its weight in gold. And I know you guys have read one time management book, or you've read 2, or you've read 3, but the more you read, just like Paul said earlier, the more you read and the more you interact, is that something is going to give you that aha moment, that moment of clarity that's going to make all the difference for you. So keep reading and keep pursuing different ideas so that you can put together in your life what really works. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see you in the next episode. My name is Penny Zenker, and this is Take Back Time.
Thank you for listening. Today's topic is another opportunity for you to put the knowledge you learned into practice. Tune in again next week for more strategies that will help you have more energy and focus to get more done in less time, so you can continue to take back time.